See. All right, it's on.
Okay, we just need to say our names.
Okay. I'm Katie Andrews.
Lisa Ball.
Sarah Kearns.
And Amy Blaylock.
Okay, and our meeting tonight is discussing the CRC article and video, primarily the video that we watched by, and I lost her name. What was her name? I have all the notes.
Kelly Houghton.
Yeah, Kelly. And then we also had a video by that was on the Michael Crawford show. So we're going to discuss a few things about that. The first question says, what were your impressions of the CRC article and video by the United Nations? And what about the article and videos by parental rights? So I guess we need to compare and contrast those. And whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Well, for me, I only saw the one video. That's the only one that showed up in my thing.
By Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a long one, so we can say a lot about that.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Did you happen to see the one that the United Nations put out, like advocating their CRC? You get to watch that one?
I don't think so. The only video that shows up on my page is the Putin girl.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Anyone else want to talk about? Well, we had the article and videos by parental rights as well. So I was able to watch all of them, but there was so much to watch. I kind of get them all mixed up a little bit. So I kind of took notes. If anybody else wants to go ahead.
Well, I thought the videos that the United Nations put out, I felt like they have good intentions and stuff. Like it seemed like they were actually concerned about children and helping the children. So it seemed genuine, but just from watching the parental rights videos and learning more about what it's actually going to do for children, it makes you wonder, like, if they were trying to hide stuff. I don't know. But
I think when you watch it, I mean, it's very compelling. You want that to be the case. You want abuse to stop, and you want child labor to stop. You want all those things that are going on in especially other countries to stop. And they have the right idea, but maybe they're not looking at the bigger picture, and maybe they don't see the problems, the potential problems. I don't know. That's the feeling I got when I saw the video. I didn't think it was deceptive as much as I thought it was misinformed.
Yeah.
Misguided, maybe.
I feel like, I don't know, the more I watch these videos and learn about all the different crazy things going on in the United Nations and in the world with people trying to take away different religious and parental and rights, it seems like you said, like they're not trying to be deceptive, but it seems like what they're trying to do is, maybe all I can think of is that maybe they just didn't have good families. you
right,
know, they just
right.
haven't had any good experience with anything like that, and maybe their parents were the parent that was the meth addict that I don't remember if it was this class, but that cop had to go in and take out all those kids from that mom that was doing meth, and the one kid said, "Will you adopt me?" And he said, to the mom, "I'm going to take these kids away tomorrow, so you better get your act together by tomorrow, because social," and it makes me wonder if that is, they're thinking, well, this is great. This is great. Your parents can't force you to do some oddly, and I don't know. I can see why somebody would appreciate that. But just like you said, I felt like that wasn't. I don't know. It's hard to know the intentions of their heart. It's obviously a problem and huge infringements on freedoms. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's they can't see the forest for the trees. You know, they're so hung up on the problem that they see, you know, and it's an obvious problem. They're so hung up on that, they're assuming that the whole world is like that, and they want to police the world. I have kids in my class, I teach third grade, who constantly have to police each other, and that's what it reminds me of. They feel like they have to say something no matter what, and I keep reminding them, I'm the teacher, I can handle this, but they don't. That's not good enough for them. They have to step in and they have to save these kids from, you know, making a bad mistake. That's what it reminds me of. You know, they're trying to save the world when the world doesn't need saving, just a few people do.
Yeah. It's true. And I was just kind of like how it might take away the parents' rights to look out for what they think is best for their children, and I don't know, I just think about that and I'm like, children still need like guidelines set by their parents, you know, they just can't do whatever they want. They have, I mean, obviously there's a balance you have to have, but I don't know, I feel like taking that right away from the parents would be so wrong. I don't know. But
Right.
especially when we already have in our country protections against the parents who are the problem.
yeah.
Parents who are, you know, we already have legal protection if a child's getting abused, if you know, if a parent is malnourishing, whatever. For us,
That's probably why our country hasn't signed the treaty yet. You know,
Yeah.
maybe we already had it covered and taken care of, and they wanted to take their time to look at it. But there are so many people in our government now who want to tell everyone what to do that maybe that sounds good to them.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I copied something from the article for the CRC as objectives. I'll read it to you guys so we can kind of, you know, get a good idea of what they think. It says the convention's objective is to protect the children from discrimination, neglect, and abuse. It is the principal children's treaty covering a full range of civil, political, economical, social, and cultural rights. It grants rights for children in peacetime as well as during armed conflict and provides for the implementation of those rights. The convention serves as both a rallying point and a useful tool for civil society and individual people working to protect and promote children's rights. In many ways, it's an innovative instrument. The convention rests on a foundation of 4 general principles that express its philosophy and offer guidance to national programs for putting that philosophy into effect. The key provisions focus on non-discrimination, best interest of the child, right to life, survival and development, and views of the child. So that's pretty much their claims in a nutshell and what they stand for. And, you know, it all sounds really good on the surface, but, you know.
So, since you've read that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Should I interrupt you?
No. I don't want it to take over or anything. So you guys, I'm just facilitating this, but you guys say whatever, jump in whenever.
Okay, I just was gonna say this goes right along with it because this is the 10 things to know about the substance of the CRC, and from what you just read, this would just be a perfect tie-in. It says the best interest of the child principle would give the government the ability to override the decision made by any parent if a government worker disagreed with the parent's decision. So it sounds so good. Like, okay, now say what you're, because this is the substance, you know, and it sounds so good. How do you even read between the lines? How does anybody supposed to understand that?
Yeah.
Right.
So the CRC, yeah, because it sounds like, because I didn't read them for some reason, I didn't see it at all, and I feel really dumb for.
That's okay. I just read the good parts to you. That was like the interesting part.
So, yeah, it sounds like a really good program, but I guess then what Amy said, it's meant to, like, the government can then override what a parent wants or feels. So is that, like, the main problem that the people are coming into, that it's taking away parents' rights because it wants to dictate what happens?
Right, right. And I think I see it a little bit from their end of it, being a teacher, because I've seen so many situations where the kids will come in with these stories that I just think, oh, if I could just take you home for a couple of months, and give you a good home and the love that you deserve. And I think that way sometimes, and I think take away these rights of these parents, but then fundamentally I know that's wrong. They have the right. And so I have to tell the kids, explain to the kids, your parents love you. They want what's best for you, but they have their different methods of providing that. And that's the hardest thing, is to just kind of explain to these kids how much their parents love them when the things that their parents are doing are not showing that love. And I think that, that's what this is all about, is they're trying to protect the few, but it's affecting the masses.
Well,
Yeah.
and I feel like one of the problems is that works. Okay, so like with our government laws, it's based on a basic fundamental freedom and fundamental morality code. And as soon as you take away the fundamental morality code, then what is good? I mean, if there's and if that video, it said, the child that won the case in America about needing to go to church twice.
Mm-hmm.
Once on Wednesdays and once on Sunday, and the child came to the government, and the government said, well, you can't force your child to go to church. So you can take them once. They took the kid away from him, I think is what they said, and then they gave the kid back after they agreed to only make the child go once to church. And so how many people in the world fundamentally and morally feel that it's wrong to force your child to go to church? Well, lots of people think it's fundamentally wrong to go, to not allow gay marriage. So once the moral code is broken down, once there's not a basic morality, then it's just chaos.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, a broken moral code is what we'll end up with. And that's
That
interesting.
kind of sounds like, to me, I don't know if you guys read the article, or just a random article I read about a girl who's trying to sue her parents because they were like a curfew. I'm not exactly sure. I just remember she was trying to sue her parents over something ridiculous.
Was it that they weren't paying for her college education?
Yeah,
you're right.
she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because she wouldn't obey like their house rules. They said that they weren't going to pay for college anymore, and then she tried to sue them, and it's like, seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness she lost, huh?
I know. But like, if this were in place, like, what would have happened? Like, if the government had thought, like, yeah, parents should have to pay, then the parents wouldn't even have a say in something like that.
Yeah.
We went to dinner tonight, and my husband pulled up a story because I was telling him what our topic was tonight, and he pulled up a story on his phone. Top Yahoo story. It was a classic example, and you guys can probably look it up later, but in Hawaii, and I don't know how this happened, maybe it's a state law or whatever, but in Hawaii, a man was arrested and fined because he made his son walk home from wherever they were. He dropped him off a mile from their home because the son was arguing with him and being combative and, kind of being a brat. And the dad said, fine, you walk home and you think about the things that you just said to me. And it was only a mile. And so he walked home and apparently called the cops on his dad, and his dad was arrested and fined. And the court, it actually went to court, and the judge was a woman, and she said, this is a different day and age, you don't parent that way. And so she put the to him. So I thought that was interesting. It proves the point. If we can do that already without the CRC treaty signed, what's going to happen after that? It's just going to get worse.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
It is scary. Even their brain development. Their brains aren't even developed
True.
until they're 18. So
True.
why are we giving this power to people who don't even have full brain functioning. Like, I'm
Right.
not saying that that makes them any less, but they definitely need some guidance. I mean, what kind of civil and oh my gosh, it's bad.
No, you're right. You're right. It's a good point to bring up that their brains, their prefrontal cortex is not even developed. That's a very good point. So, our next question, if you guys want to move on, is do you think that the pitfalls and potential legal consequences for parents cited by parental rights in their video are an unintentional result of the vague and ambiguous language in the CRC? Why or why not? Use some research to back up your claims. That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Well, we could start. I could read. I have it pulled up, the 10 things about the substance of the CRC. I could read like 3 more of them about what parents will be punished for.
Yeah.
It says children have the ability to choose their own religion, while parents would only have the authority to give their children advice about religion. Religious schools that refuse to teach alternative worldviews instead teach only their one religion is true. They can't do that. They allow parents. Children would have the right to reproductive health information and services without parental knowledge or consent. So does that mean abortion? That's my question.
Yes,
Yeah.
they mentioned that. They mentioned that in that video on the Michael Crawford show. That was I took some notes on that, and I can read those a little bit later. But it mentions that abortion is one of the big kickers. Is that girls can get abortions if their parents try to stop them. There's no recourse.
They don't have to have a over 18 signature because. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Just think of how many high school kids are going to be ditching school.
Yeah, seriously.
And then think about how many high school kids won't be contributing in the next generation to society.
Right, right.
And how much our prison bill is going to go up? Like I don't even comprehend.
That would be really hard. There's gonna be like a whole bunch of selfish teenagers, basically, because they're already becoming so selfish on how they want things their way, and then if they all get their way, then it's just gonna destroy the whole entire nation.
That's true.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, my son is very concerned about it when we were talking about it, and the primary reason I brought it up is because he's 17. He just got his driver's license today, yay! And he is looking to put in his mission papers soon, and he's thinking about life. He'll be graduating in 2 weeks from high school, and he doesn't turn 18 until October, but he's already thinking, what is my world becoming? What kind of parenting rights am I going to have? He says, I won't have any. He said, I won't be able to discipline my children without running the risk of being put in jail. And he says it makes you think twice about not really having children, but where you have them, you know? Where are you living when you have your children?
Well,
Can you be a
now you're
parent?
in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now.
So, he's saying maybe I'll move to Canada. But, you know, that's sad that they have to worry about that, and that we have to worry about our kids' future as parents. That's just the saddest. So.
Yeah.
Did you get all your notes from that, Amy? Did you get them covered?
Oh yeah, I was
Okay.
just reading stuff from the treaty. I was trying to remember the reading, so I pulled it up the reading so I could refresh my memory.
Okay. Do you guys want me to read some of the notes I took from the Michael Crawford show? Okay.
Yeah.
That was actually really interesting. It was the 2 women who were advocates, they were opponents of the CRC, but they were advocates for family rights and parental rights. And they were being interviewed by Michael Crawford. And these are some of the highlights that I found was they mentioned that the treaty trumped all state laws. And that is really concerning because we want the rights to be left with the states. And now here we are with a treaty that trumps it. Treaties give government authority to monitor and direct decisions made within the families and obligates them to interfere. So they're obligated to interfere. They can't just decide. It's their obligation. That's a scary thing. Ratification of the CRC treaty forces our judges to rule on this treaty and make our parents comply. Ratification will cause the courts to interfere in parental rights, and there are articles within the treaty that guarantee children fundamental rights for freedom of association and expression, rights to privacy, which are ambiguously written. That part they were talking about was really interesting because they were saying that if a child wants to hang out with a thug, a teenager, like 12, 13-year-old teenager, wants to hang out with a thug and the parents oppose it, the court can step in, the government can step in and say, oh, no, you didn't, no, and they can just take away the right to the parents to interfere. So that's a little scary. You could face a social worker for interfering on Article 16's rights to association. That's what it is. It's a right to association. Like, I can hang out with whomever I want. Evolving capacities of a child to make decisions. Children have the right to be heard according to the treaty. This gives the kids rights to have a say in every decision that their parents make for them. Judges have to be forced to give us our parental rights, so we need to amend the Constitution, they say, to guarantee parental rights. So they're asking not only for us not to sign the treaty, but they're asking to amend the Constitution to give more parental rights, which I think is a good idea. There is an external threat of the CRC internally, customary international law. Judges are looking to the international community to make rulings on cases. So there's going to be an international law instead of state laws. 193 nations support this treaty out of the world. There's only 2 that don't support it. It's the U.S. and I can't remember who else.
Somalia.
Yeah.
Was it Somalia?
Mm-hmm.
Yay, Somalia. The burden of proof is on the parent to convince them that they're being good parents and making adequate decisions for their children. So basically, you're on trial for your parenting style and your parenting methods. The government would have the right to make decisions concerning religion, discipline, education, and parents would lose the right to insist that their kids go to church with them, and children could have abortions without parental consent. That's where that comes in. Parents could lose custody of their own child simply by violating any of these protections. The biggest threat, though, they said, is that they're trying to sneak the treaty through before the new Congress comes in. The lame duck Congress is going to vote it in, according to them. Parentalrights.org has ideas and legislation to block this treaty from being snuck through. And the most important thing they said that you could take away from that is that one person can make changes and can make a difference. They have 30 out of 34 senators who have boycotted the treaty. They need 34. They have 31 so far. So they only need 3 more senators to boycott the treaty, and it doesn't get signed. And they said the immediate need right now is to block the treaty in November, December from being signed. It's called Senate Bill 519. Yeah, I wrote down 34 senators needed, and we have 31 already. We need to safeguard that our lame duck Congress will not sneak this treaty through. So those are pretty much the highlights of that. It was a pretty short, like a 12-minute video, but there's so much in it. I just kept taking notes. So anyway,
just thinking about that, we're talking about how children, it's all about children having rights, and at the same, I think that's good. They need to be heard and understood and listened to, but it seems like everything's just going so extreme. It's one way or the other, and there's no balance of anything. And I don't know, it's just kind of crazy. It's because it's not just this kind of thing. It's kind of like what we talked about last week and learned about last week, with gay marriage. It's you either are for it or you hate it. I don't know. I just think it's kind of crazy how extreme the world is becoming with everything. But
yeah, there's no gray areas anymore.
And something you guys were saying, it made me worried because it was talking about how schools have to teach universal or all kinds of religion or something like that. I don't know what you're saying exactly, but it made me think like, what's going to happen to like BYU Idaho or BYU or any private Christian university that just wants to teach their beliefs? Like when you start enforcing everyone to believe and do the exact same things, you're taking away the rights of others. There's never just a happy medium, like Katie was saying. It's always just everyone needs to come together and has to agree on absolutely every single thing that happens in the world. And sometimes life isn't fair, just like the article from last week, I think it was saying, like, there are unfair things in the world, and it's okay if that happens.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you about taking away the rights of others, because I read in our alert paper, in our UFI alert paper last week, there was a quote from Hillary Clinton that said that she admitted, she said the only thing standing between gay rights and sexual rights is religious freedom. And and she's like, and we'll fight for gay rights. So what is she fighting for? Taking away religious freedom? I mean, you can't have both. Like, what's more important? You know?
Yeah. That's appalling, but she doesn't really surprise me with what she says, I guess.
Okay, the next question I'll go ahead with. I think we kind of covered all that. If you are from or have ever lived in a country where the CRC has already been ratified, what are some of the positive and negative effects you have observed as a result? If you are from the U.S. or Somalia, where the CRC has not been ratified, there it goes, then research another country to document the positive and negative effects and relate how they could benefit or hurt your country with a future CRC ratification. Was anyone able to do that? I have a thought about something that I looked at a while ago, but I didn't deliberately research. So, did anyone do any research on that?
I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. My sister lived in Denmark for a while, and I'm not sure if they have exactly the CRC, but I know that the parents don't have a lot of rights, so I'm guessing that's what they have.
Probably. And you just didn't know it, right?
Yeah. But she was telling me all the time how it was so sad because they have children who are only 4 and 2 years old, I think, and the parents don't really do a lot, and because they can't really do a lot, like, since they can't really make decisions, they just let their children do whatever, and their children are really, like, ruly because overall they don't really have a say in what their children want. So, yeah, it's kind of scary how early that can start because they're not even old and they dictate the whole entire house, basically.
Was it this class that we had to watch the thing on AIDS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That comes to mind, and then I watched another video very similar to that a little while back for another class, and that's what I think of. I think of the ramifications of the government coming in and you know, thinking they're going to fix this problem, and here, let's give you condoms, and you know, instead of getting to the actual problem of teaching them abstinence, they're endorsing, you know, and encouraging them to continue with their sexual promiscuity and giving them the condoms, but that doesn't ensure that they're going to get rid of this AIDS epidemic. It's not going to eradicate it, but then there's all these little children who are left without parents trying to make decisions on their own, and they can't do it. They can't do it, and the government's not stepping in the way they say they are. So I could see, you know, them signing the CRC treaty and saying that they're going to do it, saying that they're going to step in, but when the parents are out of the picture because they passed away or the children got taken away, how is the government going to handle this big, huge load of children they're suddenly responsible for? They can't even handle what they have now. So that was my thought on the matter.
Okay, well, I did. I am. I can't. Okay, I found some. So I found something that says how the CRC has impacted children. This is from the. It's obviously a pro CRC. It's doing some good. I feel like it is doing some good. It's just also doing some serious bad. But it says that the historic event took place on the 26th of November in 1989 when the world leaders adopted the CRC in the UN General Assembly. Since its inception more than 24 years ago, the CRC has become the most widely ratified human rights treaty in history. That is scary. This is a testament to the common understanding among countries and communities that children have the right to survive. So see how innocent this sounds? Survive, develop, to be protected from violence, abuse, and exploitation, and their right to participate in their communities. So I guess it's been 24 years, and it's the most widely ratified uh, human rights treaty. There is a little bit of negative writing about it, which it's not pulling up right now. Sorry, when I get it pulled up, I'll read to you. My computer's going slow. It kind of feels like to me, and that last question I think asked, the one right before this asked, do you think they're doing it on purpose, or do you think they're just squeezing it in? It kind of feels like all these people in the United Nations are rebelling against their parents. Like they're wanting to create a world where there's no consequences. But then you can't take away the natural consequences. I mean, even down to the sexual rights, and I know that we're not talking about that right now, but it's like they have this. They feel like they can control the consequences. Like there's not going to be a consequence if the children aren't disciplined. And I have a 4-year-old. He does not poop in the potty. And I've tried every which way to discipline him. In fact, right now he's got a big old hole cut in his underwear so that he can't poop in his underwear. He walks around. And he says to my husband, just put his underwear back on him. But I mean, I have tried everything from, every which sort of discipline. And it says that if they're 4 and they're still not pooping in the potty, that it's a behavioral issue. So I can't tell you how many mistakes I've made as a parent, and I feel like it's scary because it takes trial and error to see what's going to work on each kid. Like some kids are going to respond well to some things, and some kids aren't to others, and you're going to lose your temper because you just don't know how to figure it out, and eventually you'll get it figured out and things can run smoothly, but then they change age and stage. So I don't know. I feel like it's just a catch-22 trying to be a real parent and do the best for your children, and trying to not have any moral standing and not have any rights to do that. Like I don't understand, why don't they feel like there's going to be consequences to not having any consequences in the home? Like that's where you learn how to be a person. That's like the proving ground for life. Like you learn that you go to prison because you go murder somebody because you went to time out because you hit your friend. Like seriously. That's such a gentler way to learn it. So I don't know. I think it kind of feels like they're rebelling against consequences. That last question, sorry, I regressed.
No, that's a good point. It's a really good point. Another scary thing that I took notes about, it says the committee is a monitoring body of 10 experts who are examining the process that countries party to the convention have made and realized in its provisions. So basically it's 10 experts. And how do we know who these people are? There's 10 people who are going to say, you're doing this right and you're not. I don't know. That scares me a lot. That's too few people.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
That reminds me of a class I had. It was a class on the family, I think, and my teacher was saying how today, in like this day, we can't even decide who's an expert in things because the people who are supposed to be experts, like the APA, they're now coming out against research that says like now they're saying that gay marriage doesn't affect children when there's research, very good research to prove that it does, but they're supposedly the experts in what they say goes. So it's like, who do you decide is an expert then? Because everyone has their different opinions on everything. So I don't like that
Right.
there's only 10 people. It's kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, that scared me too. I think that's why I copied and pasted that part. I thought that was
I know.
Well, it's like religious freedom. Whoever wrote that obviously didn't have any concern for any type of sexual addiction or problem that it could cause gender-wise. Like, they didn't care if they thought they were a girl or a boy, or they were happy if they were one of the 5 genders or wanted to get an operation. You know, like are we studying that? And then since we're fighting for rights for that, is anybody going to consider that a viable issue?
Yeah.
And also, if you've ever spent a great deal of time with kids, they may fight you tooth and nail, like your son with the potty training thing. They may fight you tooth and nail and continue to fight and whine and cry, but at the end of the day, they want structure. They need structure, and they know it. They know it. They will never admit it. Even my teenagers will not admit it. Actually, my son's kind of getting to that point where he's like, "You're right, Mom." But, you know, he's 17, and it took this long for him to finally say, okay, you know what you're talking about. But they need it, and they want it. And I see that with my students. When there's a day, we have one day of the school year that the principal declares to be Snooper Dog Day. Don't even ask me what that means. It just means, like, everybody do whatever you want. We're going to play. And that is the worst day of the whole school year. And the teachers need it, and the kids love it for a little while, but then after about an hour of Schnipperdog, they're tired of it. They're asking, when can we go in the classroom, and you know, when are we going to start doing? Are we going to do some work? You know, and I seriously have heard that so many times from the kids. You know, they're happy with it when it's a new thing, but when it gets really old and they don't see any structure and they see chaos all over the place, they get tired of it. You know, it's kind of like, I guess, going to an amusement park all day long. It's really, really fun, but they get tired of it after a while. So,
Well, just like thinking about how they need structure, and how we're talking about how kids will just fight you. You know, I feel like, you know, all kids, teenagers, you know, they go through some kind of rebellious stage, and if you allow them to have the right to rebel against you, like, it just seems like, you know, you're just totally losing your influence on them, and maybe they're choosing to do something way wrong, and because they have the right to choose it, and they can go to court and sue you for it. It's like, well, what's the point of fighting you if I'm just gonna go to jail for it? You know, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. But
right, that brings up another point. Do you think that we are going to create a passive parental society? You know, yeah, I think so. I think parents are going to go, I give up. No, it's not worth it. You know, and how many kids are going to be taken away from their parents? What are they going to do with them all? Because there's so many bad parents out there. But, you know, they're not destructive parents. They're just bad parents, you know, but they could get better. They can learn. And, you know, sometimes we learn by our mistakes with our kids. That doesn't mean that we don't love our kids. That's just, yeah. I just think we're creating a passive society of parents by doing that.
Well, we're creating chaos, and we're creating fear and dictatorship.
Right.
And the basic function of society and the basic unit. We're creating so much regulation that you fear to have a child for fear that you're going to slip and have to go to jail. That is so demeaning to the human spirit and soul.
And one of the parents' biggest fears is what the kids go to school and tell their teacher. I've heard so many things that I take with a grain of salt, you know. And parents are like, oh, no, did they tell you that? And, you know, it's embarrassing. But their intentions were good. They didn't do anything, you know, morally incorrect. It's just that the kids kind of take things out of context, and they mix it up in their little heads, and they come back with these crazy, loony stories.
Okay, so I can't find any specific information
Examples?
on the negative impacts on countries that have it. I can't find any specific stories. I wonder if that is either A, intentional, that they're not, advertising that, but all I see is that it's going to take away parental rights in the U.S. and maybe because the parents didn't really have that many rights anyway in these other countries. They've already passed that moral boundary, and it's not as big of a deal. I don't know.
I think part of it also is there's so much about the other countries that's already dictated for them that, like with universal health care, there's so many things that they have to follow regardless that by the time it gets to parenting, they don't see it as negative just because, yeah, it's normal. Like, the government dictates what happens, so this is just what happens. So that's probably why I would guess there's not a whole lot of negative, because they don't really see it as negative, because they've never had the flip side of it.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And that's the effects of Satan. He does things very slowly and sneaks it in so that you're not aware of what's going on. It's
Can you
scary.
imagine anybody in the 1950s, Leave It to Beaver era, ever advocating anything like this? No.
No. That day is long gone, and that's the sad thing. And my husband even said to my son tonight, he says, in reading that story about the boy who called the cops on his dad for making him walk home, he said, if you ever tried that with me and said, you're infringing on my rights, he said, I would just say, see ya, good luck, and see if you can make it in this world, and the kid would soon learn that he needs dad, he needs his parents. So that was a good point, I thought. I'm sure he probably wouldn't be that passive about it. He wouldn't be that cold-hearted, but
So it makes sense.
he would probably want to teach him a lesson, and that would be the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, when I was reading what we were instructed to do, we can go anywhere from 45 minutes to the 60 minutes. So if you have anything else you want to add, we can add, or we can go ahead and have Sarah. You're still going to do the summary, right, Sarah?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay.
It's hard because I didn't actually read these articles or videos.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just summarize what we talked about. You don't even have to summarize. You don't have to summarize the articles. So.
Yeah. Okay. So should I start the summary now then?
Are you guys? Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I do have a question. So I didn't go to the last meeting. I am wondering. Do I do anything else, or are you just going to post it, Katie?
I think I just post it.
And then I don't have to do any reports or anything on the thing, right? Okay.
No. No, as long as Katie records and posts, and I guess you're supposed to post it on the discussion board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but thank you for doing that, because I couldn't figure out how to record. I'm having a hard time with Google Hangouts recording, and when I did the communications class, I had to record it on something completely different because mine wasn't working. So if we meet again, if either of you want to record, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with recording.
Okay.
It is super confusing.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Last week, it took me and my partner, it was just us two, and it took us like 45 minutes to figure out just how to record, and then we had to have our group meeting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to do. One thing, Sarah, that I would mention in the summary is that, was it Amy or Katie who mentioned the fundamental morality code and taking away the rights and the fact that our morality code is broken? I think that was really good. I wrote that down because that was a really good thing, really good insight about the morality code. And then something that you just recently said too. my mind is gone. It's Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
We have 2 more weeks of school, and we've been testing all week. So anyway, whatever you want to add to it, I just thought I'd give you a little, reminder of that because that really stuck with me.
I feel inadequate in my summary now.
No, I'm sure you'll be fine.
I did not. Okay.
So any other questions or comments? No? Okay. All right, you're on, Sarah.
Okay, well, feel free to jump in if I miss something. But so for our summary, we talked about the CRC and how we felt that it would ultimately affect the United States if it were to be signed in. And I think we all agreed on a consensus that overall it would be detrimental to our country. And we talked about how taking away the rights of people overall isn't something that should be done, because when you give rights to some people, you take them from another person. And Amy talked about the morality code. And let's see. And then we talked about the different countries that have the CRC and how it's affected them. And we didn't find a lot of negative things posted, but we kind of came to the conclusion that it's probably because they've lived their whole life this way, so it doesn't seem negative to them, even though it would seem very negative to us. And if anyone would like to add anything to this little summary, you're welcome to.
I didn't want to add anything to the summary, but when you did the summary, something really clicked in my brain. I think that the reason that Heavenly Father, it just seems like history keeps repeating itself. Civilizations get a bunch of freedoms, a ton of freedoms, and then they become entitled, and then they start to want to not have any consequences. So then they start to take away the freedoms to try to take away the consequences. But then they get destroyed. but I feel like that's why we're here on this earth, is because God can't give us all of the freedoms that we will have if we can make it to the celestial kingdom. Just right out of the chute. We have to understand what He's giving us well enough that we won't regress to the natural pattern, of entitlement and chaos, and then breaking eternal laws.
That's a good point. Thank you for saying that.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good end to our summary.
Okay.